I'm going to review the Fuji GFX 100S from the point of view of a commercial still life photographer. Not a wedding photographer, not a fashion photographer. I'm a still life photographer. I have very specific needs for this camera. So that's what we're basing it on. Let me know in the comments below how you find it or what you think of it. But I want to let you know what I think of it. So for years, over a decade, we shot Canon. 35mm cameras, and in more recent years the jobs got bigger and we had to rent a phase one on each job. Well, actually we had to rent 2 or 3 because you need redundancy, and they're about 900 to $1,000 each, so every shoot we're renting $3,000. But you know, it made financial sense. Don't get at me in the comments going, well, if you buy them you can rent them to yourself and make them. No, you can't. Not the way we shoot. We do a few very big jobs a year. We aim for 3 or 4 big jobs, and the rest of it we could shoot on the Canon. Okay, so that's why we got this. It's not really why we got this, that's a lie. We got this because if I swapped in some Canons, I can get this for free. It's medium format. I've always wanted to own a medium format camera, but it's not real medium format. It's bigger than 35mm for sure, but it's not phase big. So I kind of still feel like I've never owned a medium format camera, but a little bit more. It's got 16-bit color depth, and it is beautiful. And everyone's going, yeah, but you know, you can only export at 14-bit or JPEGs at 8 or whatever it might be. But in the edit is where this camera shines. High resolution files, high bit depth for post-production is beautiful. It is blissful. It makes everything nice and easy. You have so many more options, and so much of an image is in the retouch. In the same way that in the film days, unless you saw slides, so much of your image was in the print. It's always been that way. It's nothing new for digital. I love the files out of this camera, but I hate the camera. Electronical mirrorless viewfinders are rubbish. They're absolutely rubbish. I don't know whether this is considered a good viewfinder or not, but it's hideous. I can't tolerate it. Compared to looking into a Phase or a Hasselblad, this sucks. The menu system is atrocious. It's why I still have a 5DSR in my bag, because the menu system on this is awful. It's absolutely horrific. Tethering is catastrophic. I had to buy a £250 tether cable to just about get it to work. I had to go through hours of menu systems to get it to tether, and it still tethers really slow. I know what you're thinking, well, Scott, it's a 16-bit 100 megapixel file. What do you expect? A 16-bit 150 megapixel file from a Phase 1 tethers faster and more stably. Stably? That can't be a word. Yes, these are expensive, but it's a necessity with this camera. I've just bought a cheap one. I was hoping it'd arrive today so we could test a cheaper cable versus a Tether Tools one. I bought a Tether Tools one, didn't even recognize the camera, so that was a waste of like 90 quid. But there we go. Ergonomics, lovely. The build is okay. It doesn't feel as solid as my previous camera. The dials, I love the little screen on the top, very nice. Doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. The articulated screen feels cheap and flimsy. It feels like you're going to break it. It's not good. The camera itself is not good. The files are amazing. So let me show you how I use it. So it's my Cambo MV. We'll do a whole video on this separately, don't worry. This goes on the front here. So you bayonet that onto here. We'll then put a lens on the other side. So here's my lens. And yes, during this whole time, the entire sensor is exposed to the elements. But no, I don't seem to have an issue with dust. And no, I don't know why. I don't understand that at all. God, you can tell it's my first day back. There we go. In we go. So there we go. Here's the camera setup. Lens, bellows, camera. So we set the aperture, we take the shot, and it tethers into the computer. This is what I'm shooting on for my test shoots. For commercial jobs, we often rent one of these, and we rent the Cambo lenses and put a Phase 1 IQ 150 on the back of it. Beautiful, beautiful bit of kit. Much more user-friendly. Are the images better? I don't think so. I think this image quality-wise is as good as a Phase for what the naked eye can see for still life. It has a slight benefit, and this is odd to say this, of not having as big a sensor. By having a smaller sensor, we don't have to do as much movement with the lens to get as much in focus. By having a smaller sensor, we can have different apertures used to get more light through. You know, there's benefits to it. But then if you take that to the nth degree, why don't I use a micro four thirds camera? Well, there's a sweet spot. There's a real sweet spot in terms of pixel density. Now, a question you might be asking is, how come we're using 1970s, 1980s lenses on a 100 megapixel back? These resolve more detail than the back needs. These resolve a 6x7 centimeter negative, which is higher than 100 megapixels. It's brilliant. And because it does such a big image circle, 6x7 centimeters, not 6x7, not even 645, even if you move this all the way to the extreme movements, front and back, you get no vignetting and you get no loss of image. So it's a brilliant, brilliant combination. The two of them combined are just great. I love it. It's a great setup. And it works for me with this. Excuse the rather rude jump cut, but there's another problem with this. I bus power my cameras because the batteries they supply are useless. You can't close the door with the cable in. Canon's got this like little weird bit which lets you like push it through. This doesn't have one. Like that's a real, I don't know why. That's annoying. And it's not as, well, it is annoying. It's just annoying. Like, it's like they didn't speak to a photographer before designing it. Now, a couple of other things which are worth mentioning here. PC sync port, very, very important. USB for tethering. You have to turn power off for USB for tethering. So you can't let this cable charge your camera whilst you're shooting, which is one of the big things everyone's like, oh, if you get a mirrorless, you can do. No. If you do that, it destroys your tether cables. And I have that on good authority. And yeah, it doesn't work. I mean, the whole tethering ordeal with this camera is horrific. If I ever lose my menu settings that allowed me to tether, it could take me a month before I can use it again. It's just an absolute disaster of a design. So if the camera sucks so much, will I be keeping it? And probably yes. You know, we might not use it on jobs because every digitech I speak to says, please don't bring a Fuji, they're a nightmare. But for test shoots, and including this one we're doing on Friday, I'll be using this. This will be my daily driver at the studio. This will be what we do testing with, what we make YouTube videos with, not the filming of them, but the shooting of stills, and I'm showing you how to do something. If I can get it to run flawlessly on 10 different test shoots, I'll buy a second one, we'll sack off phase altogether, and I'll bring my own camera on set and rent it to myself. Because these are priced at a price point that owning it and renting the kit to yourself makes sense, whereas a phase one doesn't. It will do when it devalues in a few years' time. There'll be a point to buy a phase one IQ 150 where it will make perfect financial sense for my business, but that's a few years away. And for now, this is a good move. And you know, they don't seem to be devaluing that fast either, which is lovely. There's nothing worse than buying a camera and losing $5 grand within a month or something like that. But this is a great setup. So to summarize, the camera sucks. The images are great. Like, if I was using these for my daily shooters, I'd have returned it and I'd have got my 5DSs back. Because the 5DSR, I've still got one left in my bag just for when this conks out and doesn't work and I can't get the menus to work. It is flawless, it is seamless, and it is 90% as good as the image quality from this, 90%. And from that 90%, 99.9% of times, you won't know the difference because it's not required. But this is some specific things with monochromatic images. When I say not black and white monochromatic, but like red on red on red, blue on blue on blue, this fixes that problem nicely. But my God, is it stressful to use. And anyone who thinks mirrorless is the future, I don't understand how you can tolerate the viewfinder. It sucks so bad. Like, it is awful. It is absolutely awful. I actually don't use it. I just use the live view screen on the back. It's considerably better. The viewfinder is just horrific. I am buying a native lens for this soon, either the 110 or the 80 or 85, whatever it is. I'm undecided yet because we're doing some portrait work at the moment. It's a new thing we're getting into here, like in my style, but with people. And it'll be interesting to see how I manage to shoot portraits on an electronic viewfinder because it doesn't feel like photography to me. And maybe I'm old, maybe I'm past it, but I don't like it at all. It is, you know, one of the reasons I didn't move to mirrorless was because of that, and because there's no gain in image quality if you do 35mm mirrorless. And yeah, it's awful. And what have we got? Card slots. It takes, I think they're SD cards. I'll never use a memory card. I don't even own a memory card. These cameras here, the videos, they shoot to SD cards directly. But yeah, it's an all right camera. For the price, it is brilliant. Would I recommend you buy one? Probably not. It's a nightmare. If you're using this as your daily driver and you're the sort of person who shoots at least 4 times a month, this would give you a migraine. But if, like me, you shoot maybe 3-4 big jobs a year and the rest of it's just having fun in your studio, yeah, maybe.